I may be the first person to tell you this, but you are allowed to love your sport in an entirely new way now. Can you imagine actually having fun with the game that you used to play so freely when you were little? Maybe there was a lot of external and internal factors that completely stripped your joy away. Well, today we are going to be talking about how to find joy again, how to have fun again with a sport that you played competitively for so long. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Now What podcast. I am your host, Sierra Stout. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm pumped for today's episode, mainly because it is deriving off of a question that one of you sent in. If you've been following with us up to this point, you know that in every episode, we encourage you to hop down in the comments wherever you're listening, send in something that you want us to discuss or talk about, and if you're uncomfortable doing that in a public space, totally get it. You can look in the show description, find us on Instagram, and send us a DM there, but we don't want this to be about us. I want it to be about you, so thank you for sending it in, and today's topic is coming from this question. It says, "Hi Sierra, I'd love to hear about how to have fun with your sport after playing competitively in college." Great question. I'm sure that you're not the only one asking this, because I know that I was asking it, and if I'm being completely honest, I'm still trying to figure it out. But we're going to dive into that today. So how to have fun with your sport after playing it competitively for so long. All right, so let's just address the elephant in the room. Why does our sport feel so different when we're done playing? After the competition ends, our relationship with our sport changes, and nobody was talking about it or prepared us for it, so how the heck are we supposed to move forward? There are two common paths that athletes normally fall into when their sport came to an end, and those are full avoidance or full burnout. Can you relate with either of these? Because I sure can. Really quick, if you're in a space to write something down, I want to challenge you to do this. I want you to write down or ask yourself out loud, what made me fall in love with the sport in the first place? Was it the game, or was it how it made me feel? I think identifying this will be super important to understanding how we can get back to that place of full enjoyment after playing it competitively for so long. So I don't know about you guys, but there were a lot of factors that came into play for me losing the joy of the game. I struggled with a lot of external pressures and a ton of internal pressures. If you can relate to either of these, then let me know. But external, maybe that was coming from coaches, scholarship opportunities, roster spots, parents, or teammates. And internal pressures may have looked like perfectionism, fear of failure, identity tied to performance, etc. Personally, I am my own biggest critic, and I had a lot of goals that I wanted to achieve in my 4 years of playing in college, and then I wanted to go on and play professionally. But when I knew that I wasn't playing professionally anymore, because I lost the joy of the game, I started feeling even more pressure to check off things in college because I knew that my playing days were coming to an end. So let me just ask you this. How many of you are struggling still with the external or internal pressures from what your sport brought onto you? Or maybe you brought onto yourself, but it doesn't lessen the fact that those were big factors as to why you lost the joy of the game in the first place and why we need to learn how to have fun with it again. Maybe you struggled with some silent resentment of having to go out and play. I think that's often a pretty good sign of you've lost the joy of the game. Or maybe you're struggling with signs of emotional trauma, such as fear of being seen, of you doing your sport, maybe anxiety around casual play or comparison to your former self. I know for me, it took about 2 years to go back out to the golf course and play. At first, I remember showing up and trying to get myself to go out there, and I was genuinely struck by crippling fear of holding a golf club, being seen in public. I don't know what it was, but clearly I had a trauma response that I had to tend to before I could go back out there. But there was no shame to that. I just had to listen to my body. So if you can relate, just know you're not alone. It's actually pretty normal. And that's just your body sending off alarm signals to your nervous system saying that, hey, we need to take care of something before we can proceed. So make sure you're taking care of yourself there. But these things aren't negative, and I still will go out and play with people for a casual round of golf and I'm comparing myself to who I used to be, the player that I used to be. And then I'm thinking, who in my right mind, why would I compare myself to that when I'm not practicing anymore? I'm not putting in the same level of work. I'm not polished in any capacity. And for me to go and learn to just have fun with it again has been a challenge, and it is a growing journey that I'm on every day, but it's definitely getting better. And I know that I can't view myself as I once was. I can pull confidence from it, but I can't expect myself to perform in that same way. So if you're struggling with layers of comparison or fear of man for people expecting you to still go and perform at the level that you used to, let's find ways to break that off, because I know that that can really take the joy out of the game. So I think something that we need to do from this point forward is define, what do we even want from our sport? So maybe shift from what do I need to prove to how do I want to feel? Maybe your goal is on how much fun can I have today? How many times can I compliment somebody else? How many times can I smile? I know it sounds cheesy, but if there's these practical controllables that are actually joyful, maybe it'll help. Or you could focus on movement. If you simply want to go and play your sport for movement and to move your body again, have at it. I think that that's actually a lot of fun. Or maybe you want to get community out of it. See how many new people you can connect with over a sport. I think something for me that's been helpful is finding ways to connect with people out on the golf course and help them, give them swing advice, give them tips that I learned, give them easy practicals that they can begin to implement into their game. And I've noticed that as I begin to do that, and it's more of that servant heart posture, it's become less about me and more about them, which allows me to enjoy the game in a different light, and then I'm not so wrapped up on what I'm doing and my performance and what I need to prove. Or maybe you can focus on mindfulness. I know one of my favorite things with having an outdoor sport was finding things that I could hear, whether that was an airplane, a mower, somebody's kid screaming, playing on the swing set, etc. I don't know what that is for you, but even just finding practical things that you associate with your sport while you're doing it could bring you back to earth a little bit and allow you to enjoy the present a bit more. So here's something random but a practical that you could do if you wanted. Create a now playlist. I don't necessarily mean music, but almost like a little card that you can have before you go play. And you read off the 3 things that you're wanting to focus on. And when you're done playing or participating in your sport, come back to the card and just evaluate, did I feel free? Did I connect with somebody today, etc.? Whatever that is, if you're more focused on that, then I do believe that it'll be less about yourself. And again, you'll learn to find enjoyment in the game again. So now that we are redefining how we want to see our sport, I think the next step is exploring new ways to engage with it. Have you considered trying a new format for your sport? For example, a recreational or club league or team? I know that I have enjoyed going out to the golf course with friends and playing friendly matches. It's been a completely different light and something that I've been used to. I felt like it was a new game. I had to go and learn how to play with a different mentality, etc. And that was really unique for me, but I had a good time. I think I also have been interested in potentially starting my own golf club for girls, and everybody that I meet, they're like, hey, I actually really want to learn how to golf. Can you help me? And I'm internally thinking, well, heck yeah. So if there's not already a community in your area that's doing this, why don't you go be the one to create it? People are looking for community. People are looking for connection. So you might as well be the one to go and create what you wish you had. Another way to engage with your sport could be to intentionally play with people that did not know you in your glory days or to the level that you knew that you played at. I think there's no ego to protect, and it's often relaxing to just go out and play with people who will appreciate you for who you are and not feel like you have to impress them. A third option for exploring new ways to engage could be to go and coach or teach your sport. Maybe you could find a camp and go give back to the community or kids who are learning the game. Or you could find people your age who haven't done it, or maybe they haven't done it in a long time, and you're like, hey, let me show you something. This actually helped me a lot. I think that could be a really cool way to, again, keep the focus and attention off of yourself and more on other people and the sport. it really will help you find ways that you fell in love with the game in the first place, and I believe that joy will start to come back naturally. And lastly, I think this is one of my favorite ways to engage with my sport now that I'm not playing it competitively in college anymore, and that is combining it with new hobbies such as travel, photography, content creation, etc. I've been going out on the golf course with some friends and we've been filming content. We've been making videos out of it, and it's completely freed me up in ways that I didn't even know, and completely rewriting the story in my brain for what this game is to me and how that I want to engage with it moving forward. So this week I'm going to challenge you to do this. Maybe you could shoot around at a local park. Maybe you could go hit golf balls at a public range. Maybe you could go join a run club or invite a couple friends to run with you on a Saturday morning. Whatever that looks like for you, in whatever sport that you are involved with, find a way this week to get involved and reintroduce yourself to the game in a completely new way. I promise you, you're going to notice a shift. All right. So I'm going to do a slight pivot here in energy. I know I feel like things have been high and we're really excited, but I do want to address something that I personally struggled with, and that were the triggers that came when I had to heal from my sport. I had a lot of great memories, but I also had a lot of hard ones, and so I had to take time to heal and give myself grace for the space that I needed to be away from the game. So if you're somebody who's actually avoiding your sport, and the thought of finding joy in it again doesn't even seem like it's relatable to this current season of your life, well, just know that it might be because you have some unprocessed grief to deal with. Maybe there's some unprocessed pain. If you haven't already, we actually did an episode on grief, so I'm going to link it right here, but you can click on that and watch it after this episode is finished up. We're getting close to the end here, but it's okay. There's no shame to that. And so maybe you just need some time to unpack, to process, and then you're going to be able to move forward in a completely new way. Maybe some of these triggers for you are competitive environments, the gear, seeing coaches or a teammate. Maybe there's specific locations that remind you of something good or bad, and it's just hard for you to go back there. I personally dealt with this, so I can attest that it's normal. I've walked it, but I'm also on the other side of it, and I promise it gets better. It might not seem like it, and if you do need to reach out to somebody, feel free to DM me. I'm happy to process with you through that and maybe give you some other practical tools that I was able to do to heal quicker, but there's no timeline to it, so don't shame yourself for this season. Healing is completely possible, but it really requires honesty. So you need to get real with yourself, see where you're at, see where your pain points are, and then you're going to be able to lean into it and hopefully get on the other side sooner than you expected. And lastly, one thing that I want to talk on is redefining what winning looks like now. I think this version and idea of success that we've had as athletes for so long is put into this box. And now we have to learn, well, what does success look like now? What does winning look like now? I'm going to go into this briefly, but we are going to be doing an episode on this coming up, so I'm not going to completely unpack it, but here's a bit of a tease for what we're going to talk about. It's not about medals or trophies anymore. It's actually about freedom, it's about movement, and it's about finding joy in the game. Now, doing the things that we talked about today will help us get there, but maybe winning is when you play without shame. Maybe winning is when you go play without fear of man. Maybe winning is when you go out there and you don't negative self-talk yourself the entire time. Those were small aspects for me that I was able to count as wins, and it helped me get back into the sport again and enjoy it in a different way. So I want to challenge you to start tracking how often you engage with your sport in a low pressure environment. If you're trying to jump back in high pressure situations, maybe you're not ready yet, and that's okay, but find those low pressure ways and celebrate the return of play, not performance. Again, I know all of this is easier said than done, and we really will unpack this whole redefining what success and winning looks like, but I just wanted to mention it as we wrap up here because I think learning to have fun with your sport after you played it competitively for so long is a hefty task. You know, we got to spend time practicing it just like anything. It's not like you're automatically going to be good at enjoying the sport again, but I don't know if you guys have seen the commercial. It was a long time ago, actually. I can't remember who came out with it, but it was basically clips of a younger girl or boy playing their sport. And I think a really basic quote came up, and it was like, that little girl who fell in love with the sport, go play for her. And I think that I've had to lean on that and find the reason that I fell in love with this sport in the first place. And I'm continuously trying to lean back into that space and almost play with that childlikeness again, having fun. There's no pressure, there's no fear. It's just me and the golf course, or maybe it's you and whatever that sport was for you. But find that inner childlike joy and go out there and have fun. It is a game, and games are meant to be played. So if this has been any help to you at all, one, I want to hear about it. I love hearing things that you guys have taken away. It helps me craft this content and podcast to serve you best. But make sure you give this video a thumbs up, share it with friends or teammates or people that you know may find it helpful, and be sure to subscribe. It really does help get this podcast out to more and more people like you and I who need to hear this type of content. But until next time, thank you for being here, and I will see you on the next episode of the Now What podcast.